Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome once again to Tales from 2 a.m. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Glad to be with you each and every week in the offseason, talking about old Steeler stories and even stuff from now. And today, we've got a lot to talk about. It has been an epic week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lots of signings all through the National Football League. The way it started out, every time you heard a bell ring, a Steeler lost its wings because a Steeler was leaving. But then things started happening in free agency that surprised some people. The Steelers stayed in-house like they usually do. They went out of house, too, on Saturday. That's something new, something to talk about as well. But here's one thing to look at. You know what? I almost said, here's the thing. And here's the thing is one of my fallback cliches. It's something I fall back on. And I've got some joker on YouTube that he's going to put this in the comment. He's going to say, I got to tell you, and here's the thing, every single time. He's going to say trade bad. I wasn't going to go off on this tirade, but you know what? I don't care because I know who I am. And I'm doing a solo show. So sometimes I go back to those tired cliches and tell those stories over and over again. But if you're coming in, you're a Steeler diehard, and I appreciate you. So go ahead and listen to me. If you don't want to, you've got so many choices out there. But I tell you what, they're not going to be as chock full as great Steeler information, fun stories, as you're going to get on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. So go ahead, go away. Guess what? You'll be back. You know what? Kind of sound like a diva there, don't I? Yeah. I do sound like a diva. Now, I don't exactly feel like I'm a diva, but you can't spell Davis without diva. And my name's Bryan Anthony Davis. So there you go. And the reason I'm talking about diva is there have been a lot of talk this week about divas, bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster, which is a big deal in Steeler land for a lot of reasons. And we're going to talk about that. A couple weeks ago, we heard about how some of the old guard thought that Chase Claypool was a diva. Now, we have a situation where Marcus Allen does a TikTok video. They're calling him a diva. We've got some old, crusty Pittsburgh media, that some of them that nobody respects, but they've had a platform so long that they're able to go ahead and spout off their junk. And they're saying, well, this is the new culture. You would have never seen this happening with Mel Blount. Guess what? Times have changed. One of us, I think it was Dave Schofield that mentioned that, the Steelers weren't choir boys back in the 70s. They weren't in the 80s, 90s. They've never been choir boys. None of us have been choir boys. You go across the league, you've got to have a certain type of DNA and a makeup to be able to play in the National Football League. Look, I said none of us. I've never played in the National Football League, nor will I. I'm almost 50, so that's not going to happen. But what I'm saying here is you got to give some athletes a pass too. I know, they get paid all that money. They're not curing cancer. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. Well, I get it. And I understand. We should be paying teachers more than athletes. I get that. But here's what I'm saying. The National Football League, the owners, when they started throwing these contracts at players started competing for these contracts. And the other teams had to compete for those contracts too. So, you know what? It's happening. The market has been driven up. Now, something really crazy has happened this week with some players. The market got driven down. And that's kind of what happened with Juju Smith-Schuster. The market got driven down, but maybe only for 1 year. And that's something we're going to talk about too. Man, I tell you what, I have gone off this morning when something I did not plan on doing. But, when you're in the shower getting ready for the show, yeah, it doesn't look like a shower because my hair is a mess. But I didn't have a chance to style it this morning. So that's what a diva would say, like make sure that I got styled. But man, I tell you what, I've got a chip on the shoulder today. I don't want to because I'm looking at the live chat. I have Stacy Lynn, my boy, hashtag pay Kyle, my son Connor's, and on the show too. Dave Shipley. I haven't heard from Dave in a while. Dave, good to see you. Mark Firestorm. I don't know if that's your real name, but if that is your real surname, that is awesome. I would love to have a surname like that. That's incredible. Mark Vandervoort in here too. Evgeny Crosby. That's a funny thing. Evgeny was on, he had a comment that the boys from Down Under put up yesterday, and they could not pronounce, Maddie could not pronounce his name. And here's the funny thing about that. He's a Flyers fan. That's why he had no idea. He should, because guys like Evgeny and Crosby have been schooling the Flyers for an awful long time. There you go. Boo Bash says more than Yins. Man, I love the word Yins. That's such a great name. So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're going to bring up your comments as well, but we're going to define Diva. And Diva's a very important thing to me. And the reason it's important to me is because we look at these players and we can't believe that they're showing off and wanting to build their brand. But why not? If you've got a brand, why wouldn't you do it? Sup, bad, says Patrick Robinson. Sup, Patrick. I love the word sup, too. That's another thing I love. As well as I got to tell you. And with that being said, was one that I got cracked for last year. And what I did, I tried to get that out of my vocabulary. I try to quit saying, I got to tell you. I quit trying to do all that. And you know why? Because I'm like a sheep. I'm like, I want to follow. I want to make everybody happy. You know what? I'm not doing that. No reason to do that. When you're building a brand and you're a diva, you're going to try to do whatever you can to stand out. And you have a thing called the show-off gene. I got to tell you, I'm on a show at 9 o'clock in the morning. It does not mean I'm better than anybody out there. I'm not. I'm just lucky enough to have a platform. And I'm blessed to have this platform. And I'm blessed that it's this early on a Sunday morning. Some of you are in Hawaii checking me out. Some of you are checking me out on the West Coast. I appreciate that. And I know it's early, but you come in to see what we have to say. Not because it's me saying it. It's because we have this platform and it's a chance for you all to get together in the live chat. We have people in the live chat that I'm surprised that they don't have reunions sometime to go and get together. When COVID's over, I wouldn't be surprised if they all got together on a certain weekend and met, like at the Pro Football Hall of Fame or at a Steelers tailgate or something like that. I could see them doing that because we have a community here. And I'm just lucky to be the guy in front of the camera fronting this part of the community. And we've got other great broadcasters that come on here. Some of them don't get paid whatsoever. The ones that get paid don't get paid much at all. It's because they love doing it. But if you're in front of a camera or if you're in front of a microphone, what happens is you are wanting to show off a little bit. And that's kind of me. I want to show off my knowledge, what I have, and enjoy this. And I enjoy doing this every maybe 3-4 times a week. It's a lot of fun. And I have the show off gene. I'm going to talk about that. Lots of great friends out there. I've got a Steelers Central fan. You know, I talk about Steelers Central, and we had a flood 2 years ago, so we haven't had Steelers Central. But my good friend Michelle, good Steeler fan of the family, didn't know what we were doing. Her husband said, hey, we're going over to this family's house to watch the game. And, she's like, all right, I don't know any of these people. She comes over, and the next thing you know, 5-6 years go by. They're a part of the Steelers Central family. And that's what we have in the live chat here. I would love to have you all over at my house on a Sunday in the basement. And I would open my doors to you because we have a family here. Love having you guys. So thank you so much. So let's talk about the news of the week. Oh, there's Mike. Mike's on too. So Mike's the one that got the family to come over. And Steelers Central is a lot of fun. 1 year for the Super Bowl, the Steelers weren't in it, but we had 43 people in the basement. My basement is not that big. We can't handle that. We had people sitting on cabinets and everything, but it was a great time. It was just people getting together, having a great time. And once again, that's what we're doing here. I do appreciate all the nice things that people are saying in the live chat about just be yourself. Hey, I am going to be myself, and that's really who I am. But I have that show off gene. What is the show off gene? My kids have the show off gene. You saw my son a couple weeks ago on the show, just bursting through here. He's probably going to hear that and burst through here. Don't. You're not coming in this morning. But there's some people that are born with different DNA. Some are born with the sports gene, that they are just amazing at sports. There's others that are great at singing. They're great at science. They have that gene where there's going to be something that they're great at. There's some other people that are great at showing off. Now, we look down on those people in some ways, but there's some people that have got to perform. And I'm the kind of guy that I'll look and I'll say, man, that guy's showing off. And my wife will look at me and goes, you're the ultimate show off. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I've passed it down to my kids. And a lot of people think they're shy at first, but when you get to know them, they are extroverts like me. I've always wanted to be the life of the party. Maybe it's a part of me that just wants to, has some insecurities. And I think a lot of us do. We have insecurities, and then we want to go ahead and we find somebody chuckling, whether they're laughing with us or laughing at us. There's a fine line. You got to be careful with that. But we have the show off gene. And I want to tell a story. It's actually a tragic story. It's not about me, but it was about a guy that I saw this on Facebook. And it was tragic because he was trying to entertain people at a party. Here was a guy that he played a Disney character at Disney World. He was 22 years old, actually had started a family, but he was one of those guys, had to be a life of the party. And he thought it would be great to put fireworks on his head at a 4th of July party. That ended horribly. The guy passed away. And I hated to hear that. Then I'm looking on Facebook, and all these people are, what a complete idiot, what a jerk. Yeah, it was a really bad move. It was a tragic move. It cost him his life. It cost his family members, this guy, his friends. It cost him this guy. But what it was, everybody's saying, he deserves it. I'm like, no, he doesn't deserve it. And I try to explain to everybody, and hardly anybody agrees with me on this. I might have one person in the live chat that's going to agree with me on this. And it's this. Think about this. This guy had the show off gene. It was just in him to show off, be the life of the party. He tried way too hard. He tried way too wrong. It was just bad, and it cost him. But some of us are cursed with the gene to show off. Now, if you have an NFL diva, here's the thing. They have the athletic gene, and a lot of wide receivers have the show off gene. And that show off gene is going to get you places. It's going to get you money. It's going to get you advertisements, which bring money. Those endorsements, they bring money. Everybody is down right now on TikTok. Juju being on TikTok. Now Marcus Allen's on TikTok. We have Chase Claypool on TikTok. We've got Labs calling him a diva. You've got Wexel backing him up. I understand. The old guard, and I'm like that too. I see somebody out there doing stuff like that right away. The old man in me is like, they should not be doing that. But what I'm thinking, you've only got 15 minutes. Sometimes you take it. You wonder why when you've discovered a singer that you like that goes mainstream, they're not mainstream. You've discovered them. You're in college. You're the only one listening to Nirvana. I had the Nirvana t-shirt before anybody knew what Teen Spirit was. I worked on college radio. I had the t-shirt. I listened to them. I'm like, these guys are pretty good. And then they go mainstream And other people that did like him were like, oh, now they're mainstream. We have to share them with everybody else. Can't have that. And then they're sellouts. Well, the problem with that is if you've got an opportunity to sell out, I don't even know if Nirvana ever sold out, but there's a lot of groups that have. There's a lot of singers that changed. Now they're doing the endorsements and they're everywhere. They used to be indie and cool, and now they're on your commercials. You're selling you a long distance plan. They're doing everything. But that fame runs out really fast. You have to grab it. If you're wondering why somebody comes out there and right away they have a Christmas album after they hit, they're doing commercials, they're doing everything to get the money, because that money might stop. I could mention some artists to you that won Best New Artist, and you're like, who's that? Because they're gone. That flame runs out really quick. And that's what happens with NFL contracts as well. We complain that Le'Veon Bell is going to go ahead and try to get the most money that he possibly can when he's with the Steelers. We complained about that. I was one of the guys saying, I wish he would stay. I wish he would go about this the right way. I don't think Lev Bell went about the whole thing the right way, because he didn't recognize the whole landscape of it. Juju kind of recognized this whole thing. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But what I'm saying here is we hate the TikTok thing, but let these guys do it. Now, I'm going to be a hypocrite if I don't throw this in. The only thing that I have a problem with Juju doing the TikTok thing is the logo dancing. And the reason I have a problem with the logo dancing, and he stopped. When it got bad enough, Mike Tomlin took him aside and said, stop. We all need somebody in our life to take us aside and not be afraid to say, I get it. I know you want to do this. I know it's cool. I know it's fun. My dad did that for me. I mean, gosh, I was in college and I decided to do some sports gambling. Man, it could have got bad quick. My dad recognized it early and said, I know you feel like you're going to get the next one. I'm a born addict. I've never done drugs. I barely drink alcohol. Here's the reason why. I've got an addictive personality where I'm just going to, it could be an action figure, or my kid sees like a McDonald's toy and I get him one. I've got to go out and get him all of them because I've got to complete the set. And I get addicted and I get obsessed with stuff. And so my dad was like, you got to stop. NFL players need a guy to say, you got to look at the bigger picture here. Le'Veon Bell didn't really have somebody saying, look at the bigger picture. Juju Smith-Schuster had Mike Tomlin saying, look, I get it, but we can't be dancing on the logo. That's really going to cost us. I don't care. Anybody could disagree with me. They're going to say, dancing on a logo never cost you a game. It cost you the game against Cincinnati. If it didn't cost you, it really put a big dent in that game because they were out for blood to hit Juju for dancing on their logo. They gave him material to do it. They cracked him so hard. Juju fumbled. Juju does not fumble very much. He's fumbled twice in huge games. But Portland, that's funny. My obsession with Senquez goal was concerning. I get it. That's kind of grown to a different level. But that really helped cost them that football game because that turned into 7 the other way. But I can forgive that because you know what? Somebody talked to him. Somebody said, Juju, that's not working. There's other ways to build your brand. Now, if you're happy that Juju signed with the Steelers, and don't say anything about him costing Steven Nelson. Look, that has nothing to do with it. That's something that the Pittsburgh media is saying, okay, now they had to sign him. They can't sign Steven Nelson. No, it was either Joe Hayden or Steven Nelson. Because guess what? Yesterday, they signed Miles Killebrew. They signed Joe Haig. Good signings, by the way. Low-key signings, but good signings. So they had the money to do that. But that's also coming from getting ready to get rid of Steelers, get rid of Steven Nelson. No. Byron, Juju only did not dance on team. He danced on team logos before, in which we won. But when other teams really decided that, hey, this is a slight, they went out and the Bills used it after the game, saying that it was motivation. They used it before as motivation. The Bengals were definitely motivated by it. That's not the only reason the Steelers lost that game. And I will say that. But let me get back to Juju on that. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but all I'm saying is he stopped doing it. Things got better. Now, Juju also must have had somebody to say, look at the bigger picture when he was signing a contract. He could have taken more money with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Somebody in Baltimore had already put out a tweet welcoming Juju, putting him in a Baltimore uniform. It looked wrong. And Juju comes out and says, I'm home. This is where I'm staying. It's for 1 year, but Juju's smart enough to know that, hey, you play at less money this year. You've got brand money coming in. You're not going to starve. Bougie's going to have plenty of kibble and sequined dog collars. It's no problem. Steeler Chicks says this. Juju sees brand building better with nationwide exposure with Pittsburgh, plus loves it here. Yes, he does. So he's looking at the bigger picture. He could leave next year, and if he does, that's fine. But the Steelers will have more money to decide whether they want to keep him. But Juju made one of the best football decisions I've ever seen. And the reason that's a good decision is because he could stay where he loves. He could make a lot of money. Not as much as he could have gotten elsewhere, but he builds loyalty. Juju just picked up so many old school Steeler fans that were down on the logo thing. He converted them. He converted some of them. And the reason he did that, the reason they're on him, because now they see him as a dedicated player. I've always seen him as a dedicated player. My only criticism was, hey, think about some things. Think about the bigger picture with the logo thing. He changed it. Man, I don't care about if you want to dance on TikTok, do it. Show it off, because you have only got 15 minutes. As a wide receiver or running back, get your money. Javon Hargrave left for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. He might have been better to stay in Pittsburgh. He was not going to get that money in Pittsburgh. Bud Dupree was not going to get that money in Pittsburgh because they just didn't have the cap money to do it. I love Bud Dupree. I wish him the best. I just hope he doesn't destroy the Steelers when they play Tennessee this year. But he's going to be in Pittsburgh. I might not be there, but I'll be clapping for Bud Dupree. If anybody gets a sack, I hope it's Bud. I hope nobody gets a sack, but somebody's going to. It's like I think about my fantasy football teams. If I have players, I will never root against the Steelers. But if a Baltimore Raven was going to score against the Steelers last year, I was hoping it was Gus Edwards. I didn't think they were going to shut him out. So if Gus Edwards gets it, that's a little better than anybody, because realistically, we're not going to shut him out. But I'm still upset that they gave up the touchdown. You get it. We're going to talk more about defining Diva. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's Sunday morning. It's 2 a.m. somewhere. My name's Bryan Anthony Davis. I will be right back right after this. If you're checking us out on any of our podcast platforms, do me a favor. Just go ahead, switch on over to number 2, and we'll see you right after this. Welcome back to Tales from 2 a.m. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Good Sunday morning to you. First official day of spring. Is that true? Yep. Yesterday was the first day of spring. This is the first full day of spring. I am feeling good. That does not mean that we're not going to have a blizzard. This has been a weird 2021 on the East Coast. So, everywhere. What am I saying on the East Coast? But really glad to see the first full week of free agency is going to be in the books, even though it officially started on Wednesday. That tampering period, come on, that tampering period is the start of free agency. And we all know it. We do. And that's the fun thing about it, because of those deals that were signed on Monday and Tuesday, they were tampering, even though they don't go into effect until Wednesday, the new league year. Doesn't mean anything. We've been tampering for years. We just decided to add a new name to the first 2 days of free agency, basically. So we're talking about re-signing Juju Smith-Schuster. I think it's a great move for the Steelers. But it's the most refreshing move that I've seen. And the reason I think it's refreshing is because even though he could leave next year, this could be just one more year of Juju. But it gives the team a chance to continue to work on bringing him back if they feel that they want to bring him back. Man, I would have loved to have seen them bring James Conner, the man, back. I don't think James Conner, the football player, is coming back. I would have loved to see them keep all these guys that were in black and gold. There's no one I really wanted to leave. I'm still hoping Big Al comes back, because when you put a dedication to a team, like guys like Juju, Big Al, James Conner, Bud Dupree, man, the guy that really hurt losing was Vince Williams. But we're in a different business. Those guys all put a dedication into the Steelers. So what happens here, because it's a business, because there's a salary cap, you've got to cut guys loose. That's really what's happening in the Steven Nelson situation. Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson are under contract for one more year, though they're both going to be free agents. What they were talking about was possibly giving an extension to one of those guys. Dave Schofield, and by the way, I misquoted Dave Schofield last week about the Kevin Colbert contract. I do apologize for that. But I'm going to quote him right, because of cap displacement, Joe Hayden is going to, it's called roster displacement. Because of roster displacement, Joe Hayden's going to cost you less. And they decided to go because of dead money, they decided to go with Joe Hayden over Steven Nelson. The reason they're letting him pursue a trade, now don't say, oh, Steven Nelson's a diva, he thinks he's better than everybody else. Don't go ahead and put that label on him. Don't. Because he's not. And the reason he's not is because the Steelers were going to outright release him. But they said, hey, if you want to look for your situation, we can get something out of you. Maybe we could do that. Nothing has been decided, but this is a situation where Nelson Island is now on an island of his own, and he has an opportunity to decide possibly where he can go. He would have had in free agency, but this gives the Steelers a chance to get compensation. So this is not an angry situation. It's just economics, and it absolutely stinks. That's where we are in the salary cap era. The 1979 Steelers, they are the only team in history to win a Super Bowl. In what way? And it has something to do with the roster. I'm going to let you tell me that. I'm going to let you tell me. See if you know it. I'm going to bring up a super chat by Dave Shipley first. Dave Shipley signed a decent veteran guard and another special team ace. Been watching the replays. So, Dave, yes, $5. Thank you so much. We do appreciate that. What they did with signing Miles Killebrew from the Detroit Lions, they were actually looking at him last year in free agency. This might mean the end for a guy like Jordan Dangerfield, who is not a free agent as well. So that's something we got to look at here. I do have to bring this guy up here. My man, Mark Shepard, family from England. My wife's family's from England. This guy, one of my favorites. I converted Mark over into being a Steeler fan. He converted me to being a West Ham fan. So you can see the in his logo there, in his avatar, West Ham. I am now a West Ham fan, even though I know very little about soccer. So we've traded jerseys and stuff like that. But great to see Mark checking us out from England. Great. That's what Facebook's really bringing in some friends. It's really nice to see. So I appreciate it. Friends and family coming in to check us out on the show. I love it. And if you're not blood family from us, like my friends here in the live chat, you are to me. Our BTSC family is huge. Byron Johnson, you're right. They are all homegrown. That team, every single guy, I think it was a 45-man roster back then, Byron. They were all drafted or brought in by the Steelers undrafted. You know, that's something that will never, I don't think that will ever be done again. It can't, because we're in a different NFL world. So any of us that wish for things to be like it used to be, you can't. The only constant that we're ever going to have, and I'm stealing this from Big Bang Theory, one of my favorite shows, when Penny told Sheldon on the last episode, the one thing that we can count on as being constant is that things will always be changing. And it's always changing. Tony and I do the retro show. We had a good one yesterday morning, too. If you want to check out the Steelers and Bumblebees taking on the Colts in a shootout, really good one. But we watch all these old games before we comment on them. We do a show on them. And I'm watching them. I get them off of a site called McMillan and Wife. I love it. And I get to watch these old games. I'm watching games from 1988 when the team was 5-11. And I'm loving it. And I'm thinking, man, I wish things were like that now. But things change. And we've got to roll with the times. So if TikTok is a part of the times, they could be doing a lot worse than dancing. They really can. You know, like I said, I've got the show-off gene. I've done plenty of things to show off in my time. I once did something so stupid. This was one of the stupidest things I ever did. I was young in radio. I was also in a fraternity at Pitt Johnstown. And we would do something called the Jogathon every year. Now, the Jogathon was 24 hours and was to raise money for the March of Dimes. And I was in my grunge phase, where I would wear an overcoat, flannel, shorts, and Doc Martens. I also threw in a bandana. I don't know what I was doing that. You know, I'm really not sure. I looked ridiculous. And I was actually growing a beard too, which now you got to realize I was a lot thinner back then. I was probably about 150 back then. And I still had a little bit of the mullet left. I would go in and out of that. This might have been my sideburns phase too, but then I grew the beard onto the sideburns. I can't remember. But so I'm promoting this for the website. And if you know, there's something that I always do is I always talk about my hair. It's the only genetic lottery I'm ever going to win. Because I'm almost 50. I have a full head of hair. My grandfather died with a full head of hair on my mother's side. I'm lucky to have a full head of hair. Everything else, I'm a trash fire. I got to tell you, dumpster fire extraordinaire when it comes to all my other genetics when you're talking about health. I am. And we know that. We've talked about my experiences with cancer in the past. We've talked about experiences with just being overweight, and I'm a mess. And I get that. But I talk about my hair. So I made this. I was on the radio. I was the overnight guy, and I was I would come on the morning show every once in a while. This was a top 40 station, a number one station in Johnstown, PA, a medium market. And I was I was trying to build my brand. And I was also trying to promote this jogathon. So I said, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run 100 laps. And each lap was about a quarter of a mile. It was around Central Park. It was crazy. And if I don't run 100 laps in 24 hours, I'll shave my head. And back then, nobody had the shaved heads like they do now. Now it's a fashion statement. They're losing a little bit of hair. They shave their head, and now you look good with a shaved head. That would have been devastating to me. But I made this out there, and people were lining up barbers, and so I thought I'd do this. I also thought I'd keep my look going though. I had to keep that look. And I wasn't wearing my Doc Martens because I just got them. I didn't want to ruin them. So I was wearing these steel-toed boots. What an idiot. I tried to run 100 laps in steel-toed boots. I ran 100 laps in steel-toed boots. I stayed up for 24 hours straight to do it. I'd fallen arches. I could not walk for a week, but I was building my brand. I was showing off, and it got me some places. It also made a lot of people look at me and go, what a moron. They really did. I'm looking back now. I'm like, my dad, who always took me aside, should have taken me aside then. I think he tried to. It was like, yeah, you need to have better shoes for that. But here I am. I've got to build my brand. Man, that was stupid. But I did it. Now I'm talking about it on my podcast. So there's your 2 a.m. story. It's not lascivious like we'd like to. Evgeny Crosby says Mel Blount had a shaved head in kindergarten. I could probably agree with that. But hey, when you were growing up in the 80s watching these guys, you had a shaved head. Like Tiny Lister, who just passed away recently. He was a big guy with a shaved head. Mel Blount. Man, there was not a lot of guys with a shaved head. Otis Sistrunk was a guy for the Oakland Raiders in the 70s. And there was a shot on Monday Night Football. They called him an alien because he had the shaved head and all the steam was rising off his head. It was really an intimidating sight. And he was definitely intimidating. But now everybody's got a shaved head and it's a fashion statement. But Julio says, to think I was just going to say, boy, Bryan was what a luscious head of hair. LOL. Hey, remember, you can't spell Davis without Diva. And that's what you got here. I've got the show off gene. Look, NFL players are going to have the show off gene. Juju's going to have the show off gene. But as long as he does it right and learns from his mistakes, man, I've learned from all of my mistakes. And Juju's learning from his mistakes. But Juju saw the big picture. And I got to tell you, a lot of people have a lot more respect for Juju now for taking less to stay, especially not going to the Ravens. And really not going to the Chiefs. If he goes to the Chiefs, he's maybe the third option there. If he goes to the Ravens, let's face it, he's not playing with he's playing second fiddle to a great running game. But he's not going to be used properly because he does not have the greatest quarterback in the world getting it to him. So he actually made a pretty good deal to stay here. He's got a great rapport with Ben Roethlisberger. The city loves him, and now the city's going to love him more. We could forgive all of that. Somebody just mentioned about earlier in the show how Ernie Holmes was shooting at helicopters, FBI helicopters. He was. The guy was a mess. But the Steelers kept him. Didn't keep him for much longer after that. They ended up trading him. And he didn't have a bald head. He had an arrow shaved in his head. That should have been a sign. But it did not destroy the locker room. People in that locker room love Juju Smith-Schuster. Guys on the radio might not love him. They might see him as a young show-off. There might be some professional jealousy. But I got to tell you, well, actually, it's not even professional. They're not in the same profession. But really, it's a situation where you have a player that is going to give everything to his city. This is his city. He didn't grow up here, but it's his city now. And I got to tell you, I love it. Debbie Dickerson says this, and I love this. Yes, he's young. You live and learn. We all go through that. Man, I could tell you 1,700 more stories about me living and learning and doing things stupid. I was on the radio at 18 years old in my hometown. I did plenty of stupid things, but I was trying to build a brand. So I have no problem with that. Evgeny says the hate-filled local and mainstream sports media was salivating at the fact Juju was leaving. But now he decided to stay. It was, he couldn't get the market he wanted. He couldn't get the market he wanted in 2021. Sure. But by staying, he's going to get even more of a market, whether it's the piece of the Pittsburgh pie, a bigger piece of the Pittsburgh pie in 2022, or whether it's elsewhere. But by doing this, you can't fault him next year. You really can't. Eddie B. I haven't heard from Eddie B in a while. Bad was young and dumb. No way. LOL. I tell you what, I'm going to say this with complete confidence. You would have loved hanging out with me. Because it was dumb, I would do it. But we would have fun. Evgeny also says this. Marvelous Marvin Hagler had a shaved head, RIP. Man, he was menacing to look at. I loved. Man, one of my favorite all-time fights was Hagler and Hearns. That's when boxing was boxing. Man, I sound like an old man. That's when boxing was boxing, because it's not. It's because it's changed. MMA has taken over boxing. But it's still out there, and I'm sure it's still really good. It's just we're not exposed to it. But back then, when you had Marvin fighting Hearns, the Hitman, or Marvin fighting, I think it was like April 1st of 1987 when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, who I actually knew Sugar Ray Leonard's urologist. How about that? I met him at work. I thought that was really cool. How about that for something that 5 seconds you're not going to get in your life back? You're not. But I just had to throw that out because I'm a diva. I'm a show off. I've got to throw those. I've got to name drop Sugar Ray Leonard's urologist. But those fights were epic. They were awesome. And you just don't have that anymore. So rest in peace to a great fighter. I definitely miss Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And everybody thought he was mean because of that shaved head. And he had like the goatee before people had goatees. Did he have a goatee or was it just a mustache? I don't know, but he looked like a bad dude. I understand he was a really nice guy outside of boxing. Marvelous Marvin, rest in peace. Gonna get ready to get on out of here. I got to name drop somebody else, somebody I don't know, but I've got to bring this up. This is something we talk about, civic pride. As you know, that Dave, Jeff, and I live in a town outside of Baltimore, maybe an hour outside of Baltimore. And there was yesterday at the NCAA championships, Penn State crowned 4 new champions. They didn't win the title. I believe Iowa won the overall NCAA championship. But at 184 pounds, a young man named Aaron Brooks from my new town here, the town I've lived in for the last 15 years, took home the championship. Others at other weight classes did too. But this guy is absolutely phenomenal. He would have, I can't say for sure, but he was on his way to winning it as a freshman last year. He won it as a sophomore this year. Keep your eye on Aaron Brooks. He is going to be a name that you know. I'm thinking Olympics for this guy in the future. Just fantastic. I've got civic pride watching him. Never met him. Went to the high school that my kids will end up going to. I know people that know him. I have a good friend that I know through scouts that went to school with him and said he's a fantastic guy. But good luck to him in the future. But fantastic champion Aaron Brooks in for Penn State for wrestling. Go Nittany Lions. They're calling them Penn State now, which I absolutely love. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Hey, my dad made it into the show. Oh, the stories I could tell. Maybe we might have Old Man Davis go ahead and have his own podcast just telling stupid things that I did. And I bet you it would be more entertaining than Tales from 2 a.m. So thank you so much for everybody here that came in, checked out this show. You spent your morning with me. I love you. We can't do these shows without you. Remember, there's going to be so much more action this week on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Check out all of the shows that we have on the podcast platform. Also, don't forget to check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com on the editorial side. There's so much that you're going to see as we transition over to the end of free agency into the draft. We're going to be doing it a lot. Thank you so much. Wait, hold on a second. Knight Rider, why not talk about what's going on now? What is going on now? I thought I did. I thought we talked about. Now I'm at a loss. I thought we talked about these guys. Steven Nelson, Juju. I'm not sure what else to talk about. But Knight Rider also thinks I'm the cheesiest man in all of blog entertainment. So, but I love Knight Rider. Great show from the 80s. Because Knight Rider thinks I'm stuck in the 80s and the 70s. I'm not really stuck in the 70s. I'm stuck in the 80s. But I could adapt to 2021, and that's what we're doing. So, Steven, I promise you, we're working on. Steven's a great fan here. Still waiting on the epic after party bad. It is coming, and I will tell you this. We talked about this. We joked about this, and I'm going to give you a spoiler. This is down the line. But there is draft weekend that ends May 1st. Then on May 4th, we all know what May 4th is, right? May 4th is Star Wars Day. And it's right after the draft. So we're going to take the Scobro show. We're going to take the first half of the Scobro show. I'm going to jump on the Scobro show. I'll be an honorary Sco that day. We're going to jump on that show. We're going to talk about the draft. And at the end, we're going to do a little Scobro after party, Steven. And it's going to be a Star Wars Steelers draft, a mock draft. There you go. We joked about it last week. It's coming. It's coming, baby. Stacy Lynn, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That feeds my diva-ish and my ego for another day. I really appreciate it. Have a good day to all of you. Steven says, thanks for the show. Debbie says, no, I enjoy listening to you. Thank you. So we can't do the show without the Debbies, the Stevens, the Byrons, the Knight Riders. We can't do it because you guys fuel us and we love doing it. So I want you to do 3 things for me. I want you to be safe, be true to yourself, and always be behind the steel curtain. We'll see you, my friends, next week. Love you.